She said it like a joke, I need a husband by tomorrow. What she didn't know was that the quiet single dad she said it to had secrets of his own, secrets that would bind them together under one roof, one lie, and one impossible deadline. Right finger if you love emotional twists, slow burn romance, and jaw-dropping revelations, hit subscribe now, because this story changes everything you think you know about love, family, and second chances. Don't blink. Don't skip. Stay with us. She said it in a whisper, like the words themselves might explode if spoken any louder. I need a husband by tomorrow, and for a second Daniel thought he'd misheard her over the hum of the coffee machine and the low murmur of the nearly empty cafe. He was sitting alone, as he usually did every Thursday evening after picking up his 6-year-old son from school, the small table by the window already cluttered with crayon drawings and a half-finished hot chocolate cooling beside his black coffee. He was tired in the way single parents got tired, bone deep, permanent, but he looked up anyway, because the woman standing beside his table looked like she was about to shatter. Her coat was too thin for the winter drizzle outside, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone like a lifeline, her eyes bright with panic rather than tears. She repeated it, faster this time, like she was racing a clock only she could see. I know this sounds insane. Tomorrow. I need to be married by tomorrow. Daniel blinked, glanced around the cafe as if expecting hidden cameras or a prank crew, then back at her. His first instinct was to laugh it off, but something in her expression stopped him. This wasn't desperation for romance, this was survival. He lowered his voice. You're asking the wrong man, he said gently. I'm a single dad, I don't even date. She let out a shaky breath that sounded like a sob strangled halfway. That's why I asked you. She introduced herself as Emily, words tumbling out in fragments, an inheritance clause, a controlling uncle, a family company on the verge of being seized, a single line in a will that required her to be legally married by midnight the next day. Daniel listened, arms folded, skepticism warring with empathy. He'd learned long ago that life could corner people in absurd ways. He glanced at his son, Noah, who was busy drawing stick figures labeled me and Dad in messy letters. So, Daniel said slowly, you're asking a stranger to marry you overnight. Emily shook her head. Not forever. Just on paper. I'll pay you. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. He should have said no. He should have stood up, gathered Noah, and walked away. Instead, he heard himself say, half joking, half serious, so you'll live at my place. Her eyes widened, then softened with relief so intense it scared him. If that's what it takes, she said. And in that moment, without realizing it, Daniel stepped onto a path that would unravel every careful rule he'd built around his heart since his wife died. That night, Emily sat on the edge of his couch, staring at the family photos lining the shelves, Daniel, younger and smiling beside a woman with kind eyes, baby Noah wrapped in a blue blanket, birthdays frozen in time. I won't interfere, she promised. I just need a roof, a ring, a signature. Daniel nodded, setting down an extra blanket. He told himself it was temporary. He told himself he was helping a stranger, nothing more. But when Noah padded out of his room in dinosaur pajamas and asked, Dad, who's she? And Emily knelt to his level and said softly, I'm Emily. I might be staying for a little while, if that's okay, something shifted. Noah smiled like he'd just found a missing puzzle piece. Okay, he said simply. And Daniel felt fear curl in his chest. Sharp and unwelcome. The wedding happened in a courthouse that smelled of old paper and disinfectant, the ceremony rushed and hollow, vows replaced by signatures and stamped forms. Emily's hands shook as she signed her new last name, and Daniel noticed the way she hesitated before writing it, like she was crossing a line she could never uncross. They exchanged cheap rings bought that morning, metal cold against skin. Temporary, he reminded himself. All of this is temporary. But life had a cruel sense of humor. Emily's uncle showed up unannounced that evening, sharp-eyed and smiling too widely, inspecting Daniel's modest home like a detective searching for cracks in a story. Emily slipped her arm through Daniel's, fingers digging into his sleeve in silent warning. Daniel played the role, protective husband, devoted father, better than he expected, answering questions, offering tea, steady and calm. When the door finally closed behind the uncle, Emily sagged against the wall, breath hitching. He believed it, she whispered. Daniel nodded, but his heart pounded harder than it had in years. Days turned into weeks. Emily stayed longer than planned. Legal delays, financial complications, one excuse stacking atop another. She cooked dinners, helped Noah with homework, laughed at Daniel's dry jokes. She learned the rhythms of their home, the quiet grief that still lingered in the corners. Daniel learned hers, too, the nights she woke from nightmares, the way she flinched at raised voices, the truth behind her desperation. She'd grown up controlled, measured, loved conditionally. This marriage of convenience became something dangerously close to family. And then the first twist landed like a blow. Daniel overheard a phone call late one night, Emily's voice low and urgent. "I didn't tell him," she said. "Because if he knows the truth, he'll never forgive me." Daniel stood frozen in the hallway, realization dawning too late. She hadn't just needed a husband. She'd needed him. Because Daniel wasn't just a single dad. He was also the silent majority shareholder in the very company her uncle was trying to steal, an identity he'd buried years ago to protect his son from a ruthless corporate world. Emily had known. She'd chosen him deliberately. Confrontation came at dawn. Anger, betrayal, words sharp enough to draw blood. Emily confessed everything through tears, admitting that somewhere along the line, she'd stopped pretending. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. "But I fell in love with your life. With Noah. With you." Daniel wanted to walk away. He wanted to end the charade. But Noah's small voice cut through the tension. "Are you leaving?" he asked Emily, eyes wide with fear. And Daniel understood then that the greatest risk wasn't being used, it was losing what they'd built. The final showdown unfolded in a boardroom bathed in glass and steel, Emily's uncle exposed, contracts unraveling, Daniel stepping back into a role he'd abandoned to protect his family. He fought not for money, but for autonomy, for Emily's freedom, for Noah's future. The truth came out publicly. The fake marriage, the manipulation, the feelings that refused to stay fake. Emily prepared to leave once the dust settled, convinced she'd already taken too much. She packed quietly, leaving the ring on the nightstand. Daniel watched her from the doorway, heart splitting. "Stay," he said simply. "Not because you need a husband. Because we need you." She looked at him like she'd been waiting her whole life to hear that sentence. They chose to marry again. This time slowly, honestly, with real vows spoken in front of friends, not deadlines. Love born from necessity transformed into choice. Noah walked Emily down the aisle, grinning like the world finally made sense. And as Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, he realized that sometimes the most unbelievable beginnings led to the truest endings. Collision. This wasn't just a love story. It was a reminder that family can begin as a lie, and still become real. Right finger subscribe now for more unforgettable stories of second chances, secret pasts, and love that refuses to follow the rules. The next story is already waiting, and you won't want to miss it.